All right, let's just jump right into one of the biggest, most intense debates in modern fiction. We need to talk about Eren Yeager. I mean, when it comes to the star of Attack on Titan, there are just no easy answers. Is he a hero who literally sacrificed his own soul for his people? Or is he a monster who committed one of the most horrific acts imaginable?
I mean, really think about that question. It's the central paradox of his entire journey, right? It's what takes this story from a pretty straightforward fight for survival and drags it into this incredibly dark, unsettling moral gray area. So, let's unpack this thing. Let's look at the story, the arguments, and figure out how a hero's quest could possibly end in global annihilation.
You know, to really get a handle on where Eren ends up, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. When we first meet him, he's just a kid whose entire world is quite literally a cage. 3 massive walls, built to protect what's left of humanity from these giant man-eating titans.
Now this is what's so fascinating about his early days. His motivation. It isn't about getting power or even revenge. Not at first. It's about this deep, primal need for freedom. He looks at those walls and he doesn't just see safety, he sees a cage. And this one line, it just perfectly captures everything he's about.
And you know, the kind of freedom Eren is fighting for at the start is something we can all understand. It's what political thinkers would call modern liberty. Basically, it's the freedom from being oppressed, the freedom to see the ocean, to live your life without the constant fear of being eaten. It's a simple, and you could say, a pretty heroic goal. But that simplicity was not going to last.
Okay, so now we get to the moment, the turning point of the entire series. After years of just brutal, non-stop fighting, Eren and his friends finally make it to the sea, the ultimate symbol of that freedom he's been dreaming of. But what they find on the other side? Well, it changes absolutely everything.
And this is the gut punch. The world isn't empty, not at all. It's full of other countries, other people, and these people see Eren and his kind, the Eldians, as devils. Devils that need to be wiped off the face of the earth. So that cage he was in, it turns out it was also a quarantine, and the rest of the world was gearing up for a war of total annihilation.
And this just lays it out perfectly. The whole conflict gets turned on its head. It goes from this black and white battle of good versus evil, humans against these mindless monsters, to a horrifically complicated war for survival between 2 groups of people, where each side believes the other is a threat to their very existence.
So, faced with this new reality, Eren makes a choice, and it is a truly horrific one. So let's start by looking at the case against him, the powerful arguments for why he is, without a shadow of a doubt, a monster.
80%! Just let that number sink in. Eren's endgame, what becomes known as the Rumbling, was to unleash this unstoppable army of colossal titans to literally trample the entire world. His plan was to wipe out 80% of all human life outside his island, all to end the cycle of hate and keep his home safe. You see quotes like this all over the internet, and they really hit the nail on the head for this side of the argument. A lot of people believe that no matter what the reason, no matter the justification, mass murder on this scale is an absolute moral line. You just don't cross it. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and boy is Eren's path a textbook example.
So, the bottom line for the monster argument is this. Eren's solution was to become the very thing the world feared. He didn't break the cycle of violence, he escalated it to a global scale, murdering millions and millions of innocent people. We're talking children, families, everyone, who had absolutely nothing to do with the war. He became the ultimate villain to save his friends.
But, and this is a huge but, it's not that simple, is it? To a lot of people, Eren isn't a monster. He's a tragic hero, a man forced into an absolutely impossible corner. So let's flip the coin and try to explore the arguments that try to justify the unjustifiable.
Now, the core of this defense is that Eren didn't start this. He only acted after a representative of the entire world, Willy Tiber, stood on a stage and officially declared a war of extermination against his people on Paradis Island. It was, on a global scale, a kill or be killed situation.
And this perspective argues that when you are literally facing total annihilation, traditional morality just goes out the window. It becomes a luxury you can't afford. The choice wasn't between a good option and a bad one. It was between the extinction of his people or the extinction of everyone trying to kill them.
So the argument here is that he made a calculated, a horrifying choice, but a calculated one. Peace talks had failed. The world was uniting to wipe them out. And in the end, his deepest motivation wasn't even about his nation. It was about protecting the tiny handful of people he loved.
a goal he was willing to do anything to achieve.
So where does that leave us? Hero or monster? You know, maybe the problem is the question itself. Maybe Eren Yeager doesn't fit neatly into either of those boxes. There's another way to look at him, a different framework, the anti-hero.
So unlike a classic hero, an anti-hero operates in that murky gray area. Yeah, they might have noble goals, but their methods are often dark, destructive, and sometimes pretty self-serving. Their journey isn't a triumphant rise. It's often a tragedy, a kind of downward spiral. And when you look at Eren's arc, this model fits like a glove. He starts with reservation, struggling with his own power. He moves to recognition, where his fight for humanity gets twisted into a personal quest for vengeance. Then you get rebellion, where he goes rogue, acting against his friends' wishes, and it all leads to ruination, where he fully embraces destruction and is ultimately killed.
The contrast here is just so important. The classic hero's journey, the one described by Joseph Campbell, always ends with the hero coming back home to give some gift, some boon to his people. But Eren's journey completely veers off that path into rebellion and ruination. It's a path of destruction that ends not with a gift, but with his own death.
And I think this is the real takeaway. Attack on Titan is not trying to tell us that genocide is ever okay. Of course not. It's presenting us with a full-blown tragedy. It's a story that explores how these vicious cycles of hatred and violence can push a fundamentally good person, a boy who just wanted to be free, to do something truly, unimaginably evil.
And that's the question the story just leaves hanging in the air. It challenges us to look at these horrific acts, not just as simple evil, but as a possible outcome of desperation and history. It forces us to turn the question on ourselves. If you were pushed to the absolute edge in a kill-or-be-killed world, who would you become? What kind of monster or hero is hiding inside of you?